What's going on, everybody? This is a special video slash vlog slash podcast. For all of you that are new, my name is Shane, aka That One Guy Shane, and I have a podcast. It's called That One Podcast. The audio, video, everything will be posted on Spotify, where I've always hosted That One Podcast. I'm also going to put this on my personal YouTube page and my business YouTube page. We're going to dive into a little of everything today. The title of this podcast is going to be called My Creative Journey. And we're going to kind of dive into a little bit of different pieces, where I've been, what made me decide to get back into doing podcasts, and everything in between, how I got here from a wee little lad to where I'm at now at 33 years old. Just a little disclaimer. You guys may notice there's a steering wheel. I'm in my car. I am a father of a 5-year-old, currently hosting my mother right now from out of town, and did not want to disturb anybody, recording in my normal setup. So right now, recording in the car, shooting on my Sony camera, and we're going to make the best out of this. We're going to make it work. So 2 reasons for jumping into the podcast world again. Reason number 1, it's an assignment for class, but it being an assignment for class really was just the push that I needed, because I really wanted to get back into it. I have another podcast that I co-host with a business partner and a really good friend of mine, and it's called the Bearded Mentality Podcast. It's for our Bearded Mentality beard care product, and we have episodes of that out. I've really wanted to get back into That One Podcast, because what I started and why I started this podcast, because I wanted to give my listeners raw words, raw emotions, raw creative, raw everything, and just to be myself, and to you guys get what you get, and it's truly me. So being in the LA Film School and having to be able to do these kind of projects is really exciting for me, because I get to do what I love, and it re-sparks the creative fire. And if you're creative, you know that it's really hard to sometimes stay in the creative loop, especially when you have so much stuff going on. I recently started my business, That One Media Company, a year and some change ago. We did photography, videography, social media, branding, podcasting, you name it, we do it. It's been a lot. I'm a full-time student. I'm a full-time dad. I have a full-time career at JCB North America, where I also have to be a creative. So sometimes some projects get put on the back burner, and sometimes you don't really want, I won't say not want to do it, but you don't want to burn yourself out. And I'm super big on my mental health, and knowing that if I push myself too far, then I'll shut everything out. And I don't want to do that. So this is an exciting opportunity for me to get back into doing the podcast that I love doing, to talking to the audience. Doing video for this podcast is going to be something completely new, and this isn't what it's going to look like all the time. Who knows? We might do some more from the car. We'll see how this does. I'm not driving. I'll never drive and do a podcast, but I want to see how this goes and how it feels for everybody. But I do plan on setting up something a little bit nicer inside in my home office. That way, it's nice. I think the video aspect of it is something I've always wanted to do, but I've never really had the opportunity to do it. I just recently moved, and my last home office was not nearly what I wanted it to be aesthetically for a background. This one now definitely has the potential for me to be able to set up a nice video background to really dive into the video podcast, because I want to be raw with y'all, and I want y'all to be able to be raw with me, but so be able to put a face and not just a picture, it's a little bit better. For all you that still just listen to audio, I love you, I appreciate you, or you are just as valued as anybody that watches the video podcast. So I think that's covered most of the things that we need to cover. Let's dive in. Let's talk about my creative journey. And for you guys that are new here, just know we kind of talk all over the place a little bit. For those that are returning, I missed you. I'm excited to hear to hear your thoughts. And you guys know this creative journey of mine has been wild, and we are definitely gonna hit a lot of random topics in this podcast. Talk to you guys. Let's get into it. All right, so everybody always asks me, Shane, how did you get into being a creative, and what really pushed you to where you're at now, being a creative business owner? It's like a simple answer in a sense, and sometimes not so simple of an answer. The simple answer is I've always been a creative. I've always been surrounded by creatives. It's always been something that I wanted to do in some way or another. But that's not the answer y'all want to hear. Y'all want to hear the nitty gritty and how it happened. I wouldn't say it necessarily happened any particular way, but it happened growing up. My mom, my grandma, my grandfather, my aunt, my uncle, I was always surrounded by somebody creating something somewhere, whether it was sewing, woodworking, plastic canvas, painting, just so many different creative outlets. So I won't say it forced me, but it definitely drove me to be a creative person. I've always thought outside of the box, even before I knew I was thinking outside of the box. So it only made sense that I created. I remember creating little bracelets as a young child with my grandma, learning how to do plastic canvas, entering into woodworking competitions for 4-H, building website designs in 4-H with my stepfather, just different creative things that I really at that time didn't know I was being a creator. I just enjoyed doing those things. Obviously, I knew I was creating, but I wouldn't necessarily call it a creator. Back when I was growing up, there was no such thing as people being called content creators or influencers or anything like that. We were just kids who liked to create, to be creative, who had it for art. We loved art, which is funny because I really never liked art class. I kind of was the class clown and just in general in school, but really in art class. You could go ask my mom. I have probably the most write-up slips from my art teachers, more than any of my other teachers combined. I don't know what it was, if I just wasn't into what we were doing in art class, because I love being creative. I have now understood as I've grown up and got older that I really don't like physical art nearly as much as I like digital art and that medium. I appreciate people that can paint, that can draw, that can build. I like to build, but like I say, build like sculpt and things like that. I appreciate that. I'm not good at it. I don't like it doing it myself because I think it's because I'm not good at it and I get frustrated really easily. So I think it was that aspect of art class growing up in like middle school and high school that I was just like, man, whatever. I'm just going to jack around in class and I'm going to be funny and make people laugh. Which is now something I've got to realize that like content creation and just being like a creator in general, being a photographer, a videographer, doing weddings and so on and so forth, I'm able to take my personality and really use that interacting. It's really like, you don't get to share your personality when you're drawing as much. And like, if you're doing drawings for people like commission wise, you necessarily don't get to like interact with them too much. Or maybe that's another part of like where I like to take the digital side of art in this journey. I started my business about 1.5 years ago, kind of on accident, kind of on purpose. I was going to SCAD, which is the Savannah College of Art and Design, for social strategy and management. Loved it. It was great. It just did not fit my work schedule. I'm 30 years old. I have children. I have bills. I just didn't get to go to school. So I was like, man, what do I do? And I don't know where I found LA Film School, and I'm glad I found LA Film School. The courses have been great. The professors have been great. Everything has been great. But what really skyrocketed this creative journey even further now to where I'm at and where I feel like I won't say I'm peaking because I'm not even anywhere close to the top yet. But what has skyrocketed was they send you a tech package that's included with your tuition. The camera I'm shooting on now, the Sony ZV-E10, part of it. They send you microphones, they send you a MacBook, they send you everything you need. And I was like, this is a mobile creative studio. I already had a lot of stuff that I used already, but this skyrocketed it. This camera that I'm shooting on now led to my main body camera, which I shoot on, my primary camera. that which led to new lights, new lenses, new microphones. I'm using the Rode Pro right now as my microphone. So many things have skyrocketed me to pushing myself as a creative. I fell into shooting wedding videography on a complete accident. That'll be a podcast on its own. I'm going to do a podcast real quick. We'll do a little timeout. Next episode or two will be a podcast of how I ended up in the wedding industry. It's wild. It's crazy. We'll get into that. But the LA Film School has skyrocketed this journey, and it's been grateful. I've been so grateful because not only I got that tech kit, but every month is a new class. And there's a lot of times where I know quite a bit of the material, but I always take something from each class, each professor, and I add it into that toolbox, or things that I may have known, I learn a different way or a better way to do it. And that to me has been super important. All right, so we're going to try this again. There's been some technical difficulties. If you guys have made it this far, you know I'm shooting from my car right now on my Sony ZV-E10. My mom is here in town visiting. I have my little one who usually goes home on Sundays. It's a lot. I'm making it work. We're making it happen. We're going to get this podcast done. So it messed up a little bit ago because the camera started to get too hot, but we're back in it. We're back to the podcast, and let's stay tuned. So I was talking about the LA Film School has been able to elevate me as a creator because I was able to get a lot of the things that I needed to create on the go from the LA Film School that I couldn't necessarily get all at once to myself. Microphones, camera, etc., etc. And also, like I was saying, every class, one class a month kind of vibe, has been able to teach me how to add new things, do things better, and just overall increase my tool belt and make my tool belt better for my clients. It's been a pivotal part of my journey as a creator. I don't know if I would be where I'm at as a creator if it wasn't for the LA Film School and the opportunities that I've had because of the LA Film School, the professors that I've had, the classes that I've had, the ability to get the gear that I've had. I never intended on really kind of going this route as a profession. I've always created for fun and enjoyed creating. But now that I've started a business and I've monetized my business, I'm always looking for new ways to grow. I've always loved doing a podcast. I know how to do a podcast. This isn't the most conventional way that I would like to do it, but as a creative, you know that we have to pivot and we have to sometimes do what we can to get the shot, to get the content. We have to make things happen to be able to get ourselves into, to be able to push the content out. And sometimes it's not always about the highest of quality. It's the quality of what you give to your audience. And my biggest thing is always being real with my audience, being real with you guys. If that means I have to come sit in my car to not disturb the rest of my household to create a podcast, and this is classwork, right? But to me, I'm not looking at it as classwork. It's a podcast. It's an episode. It just so happens to be that it's for class. And like I mentioned earlier on, this is just re-kickstarting me to be back into giving you guys content, to give you guys more episodes of podcasts. So hopefully now I can release something on a weekly basis. Creating and the journey that you take when you're creating is really, really, really inspirational. You never know what's going to take you. And I think the biggest advice I can give for people on their journey is to enjoy it. I talk about that in some of my previous episodes, enjoying the journey and doing things with passion are all part of my creative journey because I'm passionate about this. I enjoy doing it. I had to figure out how I was going to make this happen because it is for school. I have to do it for a grade. I also wanted to do it a little bit differently this time. I had a whole plan earlier and it didn't work. But you know, as a creative, if you're listening to this and you're like, okay, it didn't work, This is my solution. It's not the best solution, but it worked. All right, so we adapt and we overcome. It's not the best solution, and we're going to make it work. I hope you guys enjoy this. I know it was all over the place. Stay tuned for more episodes. We'll talk soon. I love you. I am That One Guy Shane from That One Media Company, and this is That One Podcast. We'll chat soon.